So what we'd like to talk about today is our fundamental rights and algorithms impact assessment. And more so the lessons that we've learned from using it since we've developed it 3 years ago. I see that it's quite slow. Okay. So just the lessons that we'd like to share with you. And for the people who were there at the AIGO working party in June, I have a sheet in the slide deck, which is part of the slide deck that we had back then, which described the Dutch AI landscape policy from regulation to innovation to investments, but also initiatives. And today we'd just like to focus on one part of it, which is the fundamental rights and algorithm impact assessment. But before we do this, I'd just like to explain a bit about the context of why do we have such a tool. Because this is not just one tool that we have a variety or a handful of tools. For example, we have tools that deal with AI and non-discrimination, but also AI and good governance. And we believe that these instruments really contribute to the awareness and maturity in the organization, and more specifically, governmental organization. And we also believe that it helps in the application of existing laws and regulation. We all know laws exist of articles, which are black letters on white paper, but how can developers actually develop their systems in order to adhere to these laws? So we've tried to translate laws and regulations on certain types of themes into actual practical guidelines for developers. And it really stems from a desire to identify risks in a timely manner at an early stage, but also to mitigate these risks. And it hasn't been just a bottom-up approach. As you may know, in the Netherlands, we've had to deal with certain situations, most famous, the childcare benefit scandal, where due partly to an algorithmic system decision, parents who had been given childcare benefits were asked to pay back those benefits, which really caused trouble in their personal lives, and it caused a scandal and the government to resign as well. It really led to Parliament having a specific focus to AI and how do we use and develop AI and how do we use it in government situations. So we go to the tool. What is it? It is a document, but it's actually a method which helps to map risks to fundamental rights in the use of algorithms and AI. And it really facilitates the interdisciplinary dialogue between not just developers, but also lawyers, policymakers, and people designated with the governance of AI. So you can really have all types of people at the table to have this interdisciplinary conversation. And at the end of doing this exercise, the tool doesn't tell you whether you should or should not continue with the implementation of a system. It really is up to you to make that decision. But since you actually document your decisions and thoughts, it ensures accountability because you know why you've made certain decisions. You can explain them to people not part of the process. And it really also, contributes to the awareness within the organization before you implement an AI system or algorithmic system for that matter. We have 4 sections within the impact assessment, which have been visualized here. And my colleague Julia will take over now.
Yes, thank you, Monica, for telling us a little bit about FRAIA already. So as you can see on the slide, we included a screenshot of the front page of FRAIA to the left and the FRAIA flowchart to the right. And this flowchart shows us what parts FRAIA consists of. So as you can see here, we start out with part 1, the why part. And in this part, we discuss why the algorithm is needed and if there might be or not be other solutions that have less risks. Then we go on to part 2, the what part, in which we discuss technical aspects regarding the algorithm. You can think of, for example, what training data is used, what output data is used, or, for example, what kind of algorithm is used and what is the quality of the data used. After this part, we go on to part 3, the how part, in which we discuss the implementation and the use of the algorithm concerned. So, for example, what happens with the result or the outcome of the algorithm, what decisions are based upon them, and For example, who is responsible when there is a negative impact? Then we go on to the fourth part, the fundamental rights part, and this enables the user to identify if the algorithm will affect fundamental rights. And if so, this part facilitates a structured discussion about prevention or mitigations of these risks to fundamental rights. Monica, you can go on to the next slide. So after the development of FRAIA, the Ministry of Interior Affairs developed the FRAIA pilots. So during these pilots, 15 government organizations were provided with guidance to apply FRAIA to one of their own algorithms. And as you can see here, the goal was twofold. Part one was kind of to stimulate the use of FRAIA within government, and part two was to collect feedback about the process and contents of FRAIA. And as you can see here, two use cases differed greatly, and this helped us in the evaluation of FRAIA for different types of algorithms. And so here it's also important to emphasize that FRAIA is suitable for both rule-based and machine learning algorithms. So it can be used for AI, but also non-AI algorithms. So during the pilot, we guided all organizations separately, and most of the times in 3 sessions across 3 weeks. And after this, we collected feedback for possible improvement of the tool. We can move on, thank you. After the pilots, we wrote an evaluation report together with Utrecht University and the developer of the tool, where we described all feedback that we received during the sessions, our own lessons learned and best practices. And based on these findings, we formulated recommendations, and these recommendations could also be translated to similar tools. For the recommendations we have highlighted on this slide. So the first one, treat the FRAIA as a dynamic document and ensure proper version control and clarity on ownership and management of the document. So this helps to maintain accurate results of the FRAIA process, and at the same time ensures the document will be adjusted if needed. For example, when something in the algorithm changes, such as training data. The second one, establish what FRAIA will be used for, what is to be delivered and to whom. So during the pilot, we saw that a lot of employees within organizations weren't aligned on this point. So it helps to establish the goal of conducting FRAIA, so that answers within FRAIA can be formulated accordingly. For example, do you want to use it for accountability, or do you want to use it to create awareness around AI and algorithms within your own organization? The third one, involve a process supervisor to guide the discussion and progress. So this point really helps to challenge participants in formulating well-considered answers. And lastly, clarify the role of FRAIA relative to other tools and relevant legislation, such as the AI Act and non-discrimination laws. So during the pilot, we saw that it was sometimes unclear to participants how they should position FRAIA within the landscape of regulations and other existing frameworks. So it can help to clarify this for future use, so that organizations don't have to do duplicate work. So those were the 4 recommendations that we highlighted, and on this slide we included a QR code that enables you to download FRAIA. This is the English version. You can also use the link or just Google FRAIA. Then the next slide is a QR code for the report that we wrote. This is also in English, so you can scan the QR code or Google FRAIA in action. I think that was it for my part.
Yes, let me just stop. How do I stop the sharing of the screen? That was our intervention. We'd like to thank everyone for your attention, and also for the Secretariat for organizing this Twitter Table. We're here also later through email, reachable for questions.
Thank you very much, Monica. Thank you very much, Julia. And also thank you for walking us through one particular aspect of your AI governance approach, which is the impact assessment. Are there any questions, comments from the other 118 participants? 20 minus 2.
No pressure.
If not, I have one, if I may. What is really interesting is that the way you frame the scope of action, you do not only focus on AI, but rather on algorithms at large. Could you maybe explain to all of us what is behind this particular choice, and why did you decide to go for a broader approach, even beyond what we understand as AI here at GPI and OECD?
Yeah. Well, thank you for the question. I think that's very specific, not very specific, but it does highlight what we find important. Like we said, we had bad experiences with the childcare benefit scandal, and you could classify the algorithmic system that was used then as algorithm, not even as AI, which really showed us, and also other examples, that not just AI, but also algorithmic systems can really impact fundamental rights and even personal lives of just regular people, even ourselves. So because we've had these negative experiences, and because we see that there can be risks with just low or even high impact algorithmic systems, our policy is broader than just AI and even broader than the AI Act. So we go further and also have policy which basically tries to mitigate risks and lower risks of algorithmic systems.